What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
Tes. Oke.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
Good morning and welcome to the conference, Belonging at Work conference. I'm Mirela Gavra, publisher of the Diplomat-Bucharest. Let me begin to thank you to all our partners today. Diamond partner, Wipro Technologies, Platinum partners, NXP Semiconductors, Gold partners, ACCA, Romgaz, NER, Met Group, supporting partners, Invest Romania, British Romanian Chamber of Commerce, French Romanian Chamber of Commerce, Henro. Media partners, Outsourcing Today, Sustainability Today, Financial Intelligence, Economistul, România Durabilă, Club Economic, Ziarul Bursa. The panels today will be moderated by Andrei Crăciun, Head of Digital Transformation, West University of Timișoara, and we thank you to all our panelists. I invite now Andrei Crăciun to take over the moderation. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. And as Mirela noticed in the morning, I haven't brought my long hair with me, but I did bring my green dinosaur. And yeah, today we're going to have a real talk about what's the importance and what's the purpose of your work. And I'm joined by four amazing panelists, and I will start with Luxandra Lupșa, Eastern Europe HR Director at NXP Semiconductors, Andreea Negru, Spokesperson at Romgaz, Gabriela Mihoci, Group Learning Development and Employer Branding Specialist at the Met Group, and Iulia Buciuman, Digiton Program Coordinator at CCI Fair. And also managing partner at Humanistic and an international trainer. So, yeah, it's long. Believe me, it's not as long as my formal title, but yeah. So the workplace today. The workplace today has been challenged in the last maybe 4 to 5 years by the pandemic, by the challenge, societal transformers, and also by, for the last year, by geopolitics, by the war in Ukraine, by the feeling that something is transforming and we cannot control it. The modern workplace is constantly evolving and maybe towards an era-changing development. The work has been constantly under siege, and I think it's really important to talk a bit about the importance and purpose of you belonging to your work, to feel that you have an involvement. And Andrea, please tell us about your view on this topic.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I was thinking a lot about this question when Mirela told me, come on, let's participate together to this beautiful conference, Belonging at Work. I was thinking, what means belonging at work? I think it's not just a concept or a definition or a place, as you told us. It's something more personal for all of us. Because belonging, it's not a concept, it's a feeling. We all nowadays, after pandemic, hope that the pandemic is over, now we are feeling that we are a part of something, of a company, of a group, of a society. The appartenance seems to be more specific after 2 years when we are all far one from each other. So I think belonging is not a definition. I was thinking that half of our life, more than half of our day, we are spending in a workplace. If we are calling it an office or outside, or even here at the conference, we are not something in an office. We are with more people around us. So belonging is not just a place. It's a feeling to be part of something great, and something that makes you to feel better, to have a purpose in what you are doing, to have persons which around you makes you feel happy of what you are doing at work. This, I think, in my opinion, means to belong at a place or to be a part of something doing great, to have a vision, a strategy, a plan, to do something not alone, but with a group of persons, with your colleagues, to make it great things.
Belonging is indeed a feeling, and is it about the leaders? Is it about the colleagues?
It's about everything, because we are, depending on what we are doing, we have leaders or we have colleagues together. That's, I think, you told me about colleagues or leaders. I think together is the right words that makes us belonging to a place where we are doing our jobs daily. As I said before, more than half of our day. I think all of us, we are spending more hours with our colleagues than with our families. So our colleagues or our bosses or our leaders becomes our family, indeed. So the feeling of belonging is something like you're doing with your family. Something like this.
Is the place also important in this regard, or only the people are important?
Of course, it's also the place, because if you are feeling good in your office, for sure, if I invite you to a coffee, you said, maybe, Andrea, come with me, come to have a coffee in my office, because I feel better there. I think this is the difference. If you don't like the place, you say, okay, let's have a coffee in the town, because it's better to have a connection between us and to speak sincerely about what plans we have to do in our businesses, for example. That I think this is the differences between the place where we are working and the things, the way we want to do the place to be like home.
I think in the last 4 years, probably, the work environment has changed a lot. And Roxandra, what do you think about optimizing the hybrid and remote work? Do you agree with the hybrid work, with working off-site and keeping the sense of belonging?
I think we have no other choice, actually, these days. And it's not only about the pandemic. We've been introducing the concept of work from home in 2014 because we are in the R&D software development business, and our guys really wanted to have part of their week the possibility to work from home. And related to the former question, I think belonging at work is directly linked to the concept of climate. So the climate at work, it's part of the organizational culture, and it is extremely important for at least our company to, and for any company, to invest time and energy in creating a proper climate. It's directly linked to leadership styles. We're investing in our managers, we're training them to create the proper climate at work so that they, for example, explain to their teams that their work is meaningful, that they have all the means and tools to fulfill their daily work, and also to be able to reach their long-term goals. Everybody has a goal, and we are trying to identify this from the inception, meaning from recruiting, from the talent acquisition phase, but also we're growing and we're giving people what they need in order to reach their long-term goal. So creating this proper climate at work, I think it's everything nowadays. And the hybrid work, or as we call it, flexible work arrangements, that's how it's called in the company, because we want to keep it as a guideline at company level and not as a policy. We're a global company with a local flavor. So each country decides exactly the formula. We kind of indicate that 3 days in the office and 2 days from home would be ideal to solve many aspects of our lives, including the work-life balance, but also socializing with the colleagues, having the most efficient setup for the projects, and also ensuring this proper work climate. But there are countries where this is really flexible. For example, in Romania, we have colleagues working fully remotely and coming to the office several times per year, at least once per quarter, like from Timișoara, for example, or Brașov, or we have some 40 people in Sibiu. And when we reach a certain critical mass, like Sibiu, we will open a new site. So we're going after the talents, and we are doing our best to offer them meaningful work and whatever they need to reach their personal goal, because that's actually the most important thing for every one of us.
Is that personal goal approach, I don't know, enforced by leaders, talked with leaders, or is it a continuous development, self-discovery development process in your company?
It is both. We also encourage self-discovery within the company. When you have, for example, like 5% of your people are interns, maybe they haven't decided yet which is their long-term goal. So self-discovery is encouraged. Also, new college graduates and so on. So the juniors are encouraged also to rotate and explore more of our projects, more work, so that they really settle where they find the most meaningful work for them.
Gabriela, how can we humanize leadership? Because sometimes leadership is a driving force, and sometimes it has to lay down some ground rules, has to keep some processes outside the reach of everybody just for the bigger picture. But you need to humanize the whole process, as the team needs to feel as they belong to that work. How do we humanize that?
So, hi to everyone. It's nice to see you. Leaders are humans, right? They are not robots. So actually, for them being humans, maybe leadership means to have a direction set by a human being. So yes, they have the bigger picture. They need to give us direction. They need to give a direction for the business itself. But the business cannot reach the results without the humans, actually, without the people. So how can you connect with all the people if you are not a people, if you are not amongst them? And yes, from time to time, we need to remind all the leaders that you're a human, you were in that place, you're a junior when you were young, and you can empathize and you can understand your colleagues and your team. So from time to time, we need to remind them, because they are not, I don't know, bad humans or bad leaders, but they also need some guidance and directions, not only towards the business, but also towards the people.
And do the people need to understand the bigger picture always? Do they need to understand the path of a leader and the struggles?
From my point of view, yes. Because being transparent to your team, it's a very important key to the success of the team and also of the business. Yes, of course, maybe you do not need to go into the more specific details, but you need to give them that sense of belonging, but regarding that task, that project, your business itself. Okay, we want to reach that level, but why? Because we want to go there. Not only, okay, please, Andre, do your tasks for today or for your month, please send me the report and that's it. What's the report for it? How that report will help me and how will help the business itself? Because we are adults, and also for kids and for children, we need to give them the why. Why shouldn't we do the same with the adults?
What's the technology part of it? The HR industry is transforming rapidly. You have all sorts of tools, some you buy, some you develop. What's the most important part in a, digital transformation or a transformation of your work ethics and work goals within the technology boundaries?
So technology or digitalization, it helps us connect more with the people. How? Because it saves us time in order to go and talk to our people. Yes, being a leader is not so simple, and you need to have some skills, a particular set of skills. You can have it by nature or can grow it, but you need also to give time to those people in order to know them. Okay, these are your top skills and I can use you to this task. You can develop these skills and I can give you different tasks in order for you to develop. But how can I know what are your strengths, Andre, if I'm not going to talk with you? Yes, maybe I know that you are good at Excel, maybe you are a very good analyst, but just because you deliver me some reports, this doesn't mean that I already know you. So being a leader also means creating the time, the necessary time, to truly listen to your employees. So active listening, not just, okay, you speak there, over there, oh, my phone is ringing, oh, my boss is calling me, sorry, just wait a moment, I have a call, I need to answer answer a Teams message or a text message. Can we please postpone this talk? I have a meeting, it's a very quick, and maybe I will forget about you. So we need to make time to listen to the people, because 5 minutes of active listening, it equals much more than, 3 hours of a career discussion meeting or an objective setting meeting. Just 5 minutes, good quality, and quality time, not quantity time, from my perspective.
Please.
Yeah, it's something, because we're talking about belonging at work and actually being in the office and face-to-face for at least part of our daily activity. We should use these, the most rich channels for communication, the synchronous channels, which are the face-to-face gatherings, town halls, whatever, and then one-to-ones, of course. And we encourage all the leaders, and by the way, leadership can be developed, can be learned, and we encourage that very much. And also it's very important for the personal development and for exploring the long-term objectives of each one of us, but also Teams. Teams is a tool which saved us, really saved us during and after the pandemic. So this is about the IT tools on top of having interpersonal interaction.
I do have an open question. Does this mean everything we've said until now, that the HR must be actually open towards being an active listener and maybe some sorts of visionary related to the needs of the company and to understanding the whole work environment in order to be able to, I don't know, think ahead a bit?
Of course.
Why?
Because
Isn't that the boss's job?
it's a match. Because if you are working in a HR department, you for sure you have to know all the labor market, because you have to choose, you have to feel, you have to know the persons who belong to you in your department or in your company's department. So you have to know everything about the area or the industry where you activate. First of all, of course, together with your boss, with your leaders, or with your colleagues. But this is the first thing, to know the environment, the activity where your activity is, you are doing your activity, first of all. And then, I think, regarding of what you are speaking about the internet tools and the eye-to-eye contact, nowadays, after the pandemic and all these 2 years when the distance between us was huge, I think more and more persons need that approach, to have eye-to-eye contact, to discuss and to be more close to their leaders, as Gabriela said, to their colleagues, and to be what they want to do and what they want to create in their departments, to be encouraged by their bosses, by their teams, and so on. Because the distance makes us to be a little bit afraid of the environment, about what we are doing, and to look forward about after this pandemic world. And now we, more than ever, we need that feeling and that encourage to move on.
I would also like to add something. I was afraid to interfere because if I start talking, I might not end. So this might take a little. But I would start by, I don't know, even asking all of you, when we speak about belonging, what is actually the meaning behind this word? Because for some of you, probably it's about engagement. For others, it's more about connection. For others, it's more about living our values and finding meaning in what we do. And for sure, it's about interaction, and it's about how to reconnect while trying to keep this hybrid way of working as simple as possible in a very complex, actually, world. And when thinking about this question, I just want to remind you that we started leadership, and we started as HR by thinking about task and how to make task very clear, what we have to do, what we must do. We try to do those plannings with very important tasks and those planning with that's not so important tasks. So the question was always what? Then at some point the question changed, and it was why. And probably also Simon Sinek, no? The leaders need to talk about the why, so the HR needs to talk about the why. So we start talking about the why, and we gave the why. Then we realized that it's not our why that we should talk about, but that is the other person's why that we should talk about. So we made things even more complex. And now there is another question, and the question is, what for? And probably this is the most important question that we don't really have yet an answer. And this, from my point of view, is the DNA of the belonging. So every one of us, trying to answer first from the personal point of view to these questions. For what are we doing what we are doing? It's not something new. It's something that we can learn from logotherapy. So probably all talked about psychologist for the past 2 or 3 years, so we've done things with the people in order to help them reconnect more and to pass over some things. So this trend of trying to help each other find the meaning of our life, our what for, it will grow from my point of view, and we should pay attention to that. And the answer to this question has two sides. One side is the personal one. So we have a responsibility at the personal level, and the HR, I don't know why or how we got here, but kind of interferes in these personal things. So we try to help each employee find his personal life, try to connect his task with his values, try to, I don't know, we create those engagement moments for each of the individual, and it's a lot of emphasis on the individual part. And this is very Anglo-Saxon way of thinking. Yeah, where I have the power, I can do whatever. If my mindset is set, then I will find meaning, purpose, and I will also connect with others because it's my wish. And if everyone wishes that, that happens. And there is this, French, or let's say a European social type, where we say you cannot do it alone. Maybe you want to belong or you want to connect with someone, but if the other person is not answering, then it's bad, no? It's just your wish, but if you don't have help, someone doesn't show you how to do that. And this is where is again the HR role, but more than that, I think this is also the leadership role and the culture role. And probably the question that I don't really have an answer to, and might be the question that you are here for, is how can we build a culture where belonging is not just the world? What are the key things that we have to do in order to really feel that engagement? What for? Everyone has a what for that is linked with the day-to-day activities, as the previous speakers talked. And also have meaningful relationship at work. A relationship where you feel that you can grow, you can learn from, and it's about you and you really connect and you're not distracted by the technology. And this thing with distraction, it's bad. And it's funny that I'm saying that because I'm here to also represent a project about technology. But, you know, we have this way of thinking about technology, either saying, I will throw my phone away in order to talk with you. No, I will close my phone, I need to disconnect, so I will keep the technology out of my life. Or what I can do is really learn how to set boundaries. In general, set boundaries, gain control over relationship, over technology, stop it, realize that this is just a moment in my life and that I can come back to you and really connect. Yeah, it was a lot of questions that I had to cover, so hope it will help.
Julia, to your earlier point, starting with the why, that's what Simone Sinek said, start with the why. Our company started already with the why, last year even, and our leadership is very preoccupied to set new basis for our organizational culture. And the first thing they did is to define a mixture, a combination of our mission and vision, which became our purpose. It's called our purpose, the purpose of the company, which is a really long thing, bringing together bright minds to create breakthrough technology to make the world better, safer, and more secure. But safety and security not being the same thing. So we started already. The set of values as well went through a transformation and adaptation to nowadays world. And I think that to an earlier point even, leaders need kind of three things these days. It's listening with empathy, which actually is the apanage of HR, or at least it should have been. And now we need to coach them. And also they need to be able to convey this purpose, this vision of the company to each one of their team members. So we went to the lowest level of management, and I think that's where we need to work. And also this kind of empathic listening generates feedback, and the feedback is really the most important aspect in our culture. Permanent, everyday feedback, not only here and there, end of the year maybe, when you have the performance appraisal and so on. So this permanent connection builds really strong relationship inside the company.
Building on your point, we've probably all heard about silent quitting, you know, and there are some studies that were done on this topic, and we realized that silent quitting is something that people do, people that they don't really have a lot of locus of control that is internal one. So it means that if I feel that I don't have power or I'm not proactive enough, and I'm the type of that have a more passive type of mindset, I do this silent quitting. And the question was, what are the people who are very proactive, the perfectionists in the company doing, the ones that are actually pushing forward? So we have on one side the silent quitting, and this day another term was coined, and it is called the bare minimum Monday. I don't know if you heard about it. Probably this is going to be another hype word that will keep us busy for the next 2 or 3 months.
It's kind of a marketing, you know. Americans yes. are really specialists in finding, creating concepts.
Yeah, so it's linked with the burnout syndrome that is specific to the overachievers, or the ones that are use the imposter syndrome to find meaning in their work. And I would look a little bit about that, and I would I don't know, besides discussing about values and meaning, probably I would also look a little bit at well-being and about how we treat this mindset of the perfectionist, of the always being there challenger, the one that needs to, I know, to show himself that much, and that might not be very aware on the long term what's going to happen in the team and also with himself. So
yeah, I do think it's the perfect time to speak a bit about the career mobility, maybe a bit about the reskilling and probably the upskilling work of your activities. And generative AI is one of the tools that most of the companies now are afraid of. And it's one of the set of tools that might help us greatly working forward. Maybe getting a bit in touch with our employees, maybe laying a bit more the simple repetitive tasks and generative simple tasks on towards to the AI, and spend a bit more time with them. What do you think about this part of the career mobility that helps you understand the tools, and how could it help the companies? So the first part is about the career mobility within the company, and the other part is using complicated but not so complicated tools that can generate to a certain point without the R&D part, because it would be a breach of security sometimes, but that's another part. But within the day-to-day work, would you endorse usage of these kind of tools?
So there are two things. To the first point, I have already mentioned that we encourage a lot rotation within the company for the employees to be able to find which is their long-term goal and work on it. And for this, we're doing, I don't think reskilling, but rather upskilling through learning and development tools that we are using for, I think, already at least 15 years. Right now, we have an exceptionally rich e-learning platform, and also classroom courses upon request. Everybody wants classroom courses now. I don't know if you have experienced the same, but they really do want to interact with their trainer. And to your second point, I would say that as long as I'm not using, so HR needs to be really open to digitalization and to adopt new tools and instruments to make our life easier in a sense of automating any repetitive tasks and so on. As long as I'm not using AI to replace my interaction with people, I'm totally in favor of using it to save their time, to do automation here and there. I think it's something we would learn to live with and to adopt more and more in the coming years.
I was listening to Ruxandra and I was thinking about an example. So you are talking about from your point of view as a global company and as a private one. But I want to tell you an example about the national companies, the state-owned companies. So there is a big problem of not understanding what means and what brings them good in their lives, the technology. And also what it means to be digital upgraded or to have digital competences, because they are afraid that once someone makes lessons or brings someone to learn them how to be digital nowadays, they can be very easy given away from their work. So this is the main reason that why the HR and also the leader, the bosses, nowadays they have to explain to all the employers that which are the benefits of the digitalization nowadays, because they are afraid of losing their jobs. This is the meaning for them, what that means nowadays, the technology. So I think all of us need to make our colleagues, our friends, or all of the society that digitalization means an upgrade for all of us, not a downgrade or not to give someone away from the job. So this is the big problem here in Romania. I don't know if abroad is this approach, but I was discussing and I interfere with many persons from state companies, and I told to them, I have a European program, for example, I give you a real example, and this developed the digital competencies. And I was asking many persons, leaders from the companies, okay, let's do it, these courses for your employers to understand how these digital competencies can make them understand more about the digitalization. And it's all paid from the EU program, you don't have to pay anything. And by the way, your employers will be certificate in knowing some digital competencies. And they said, okay, let's do it. It's just a group of 14 persons for one coordinator, and we don't find persons because they said, why? Why to do this? We need our jobs. We don't need to learn something. After 1 or 2 months, our employer, we said, okay, we will do not 3 in HR department. We will let only 1 person, the boss, for example, to do the jobs. And for you, I'm sorry, you have to go in another place to do your job. So I think we have to look for and to work with this mentality. You are laughing, but this is a reality.
No, I'm
really.
laughing because I see Julia.
Yeah,
we both took the microphones. To your initial point, you are talking about upskilling actually. But there's again, why? Upskilling, what for? And then maybe we also need some infrastructure, because we're talking about Romgaz, for example, and about state-owned companies, for the population to understand and to be educated, because otherwise you will educate some of your employees towards digitalization. You're doing the upskilling. They're not losing their jobs. They're just doing more meaningful work, but more meaningful for the company. But is it more meaningful for the society? And this is the question.
If you are going in an institution, in a governmental institution, in an agency, the mentality is the same. So we have to change this mentality first of all, and then to work in our companies. For example, we have some, most of our colleagues understand the reason why we want to digitalize, because the digitalization prove in pandemic, for example, that they can work from home the same that they work from the office. So they are not too scared, but this is the general sentiment.
But again, you're talking about your employees. But what about the users, the customers you have? Are they going to use your products? Are they able? Do they have the infrastructure and the education to use your products? So your employees may think their work is not really meaningful for the society. And I think that's something that we as maybe a layer of companies should work on.
So what I take from what you're saying is that we should expose our employees to a different reality, just to understand what is outside their bubble. No, I'm very aware what you say, Andrea, because this doesn't happen just I don't know, with the state-owned companies. We had some experience over there, and for sure the mindset is very important. How to develop it, but it also happens at the realities for all Romania. Probably you know that we have the highest speed internet, no? Yes, Romania is very good on that, but we are very poor at digital skills. We are on number 27 from 27 countries at European level. Based on a research that the European Commission did. And because of that, the European Commission will push a lot of money towards Romania. It's something that it's done also through PNRR, and also in the public sector, and also in the private sector. And the things that Andrea spoke about with the mindset, it also happens to us, to Digiton, that it's a program built through European funds, for entrepreneurs companies, so for people, for owners and businesses outside Bucharest. And the reality is that outside Bucharest, the technology didn't reach that far. So we are speaking about belonging. They are fine with the belonging. They belong to their own businesses. But truth being said, they are doing the businesses through WhatsApp, through phones. And it's not a problem to do that. For sure it isn't. We've done schools through WhatsApp and phones, so we have experience in that. But it's more about showing to owners or showing to the entrepreneurs and all the society the innovation that the technology might bring, the time that technology might spend. And for sure that if we're going to have more time, then we're going to have more time to think what if, or to bring new ideas, or to prepare for a better future, and this is something that the technology will do. And yes, the mindset is a very, very big topic.
And us as companies should really mind that the Z generation and the generations to come are looking at the company and what it stands for, their meaning, their purpose in the world, what they're doing in terms of, CSR. It is very important, and more important. I get many questions about, okay, what does your company stand for?
Let's go a bit beyond the abstract, maybe, of the classic corporative mindset. And our friend Radu Puchiu said not many days ago something that I really relate on with my experience within the private sector, within the university, but also within the government. You cannot transform anything in any means, in any way, without the people. You have to embrace and use the people's enthusiasm, your people, the teams you're working with, but also the outside enthusiasm towards your activity. You cannot build digital transformation, digital processes, digital workflows within your company, either company or within your teams, without everybody understanding why and how. How is maybe a bit backwards, but why it's really important. And Gabriela, I would like to challenge you to tell us how we can I don't know, approach this and build up that why and those questions within the teams towards the leadership. How we can encourage that transformation to be a priority for the team.
When I'm talking with all my colleagues, even doesn't matter the position that they are having, even if they are top management or team management, juniors, I'm telling them the same thing. The communication happens both ways, not only one way, so it's in both directions. If I have a direction for my manager, from my line manager, I can ask, why should we go there? Why do we need to be there? Because as a team, I have the responsibility to ask my manager. So if he's not going to tell me, because maybe he's not set like this, I can help him. Because the HR can help the business is helping HR, colleagues, and it's a both-way communication and direction, and it shouldn't be only on my manager's shoulders to tell me why. Oh, I'm in a meeting, he's telling me we need to do that. Oh, but he didn't tell me why. Oh, I'm not going to ask him, I'm going to a coffee break, and that's it. He didn't tell me, so I'm not going to ask him. No, it's all of our responsibility to ask, because the leaders are guiding us, but we as a team are also guiding our leaders. How you should treat me, how you can treat me, how I like to be treated. And when I will come back to the meeting and I'm going to tell you I have done this, 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 and I haven't done this, this is because I haven't done it because I didn't understand that. It's because I didn't ask you questions. It's because I didn't ask you for clarity. So it's not only from the manager's part, it's also from the employee's part. So when I'm speaking with all my colleagues, I'm telling them the same thing. You should tell them why. You should ask them why. It's not only one part. It's not an easy job to do it, so it's not going to be a change overnight. Oh, I have spoken to Gabriela. She told me to do that. I will do that, starting from now. No, it's something that it needs to be imprinted in our DNA, in our meetings, actually. But it will take time, so step by step, we can be there, but we should have this in mind. Why do I need to do that? Because, so it's why. It's also the 5 whys method and so on. It's from Simon Sinek. We should start with why. But yes, we should start with why. Why are we talking about belonging at work? What's missing?
Who should drive this?
I think all of us should drive this. Not only HR, not only managers, not only, I don't know, the CFO, the CEO, the COO, and so on. Because if we want to be a company or a business in this reality, we should share the responsibility. We should share the responsibility of our work, because I'm not working for myself, because if I would work for myself, then I should have a startup company. I'm not working for myself, I'm working towards a team's objectives. Yes, I have my own objectives, but are from the team's objectives, that are from my managers, from the top management. But we are working all together, so I'm not working alone. And being part of a team, of a community, maybe not a team, but of a community, then I should do my role, I should play my part, I should take care of my responsibilities. And I should talk to my colleague, Andrea, do you remember last time when we talked, you told me that you will take care of? Did you manage to take care of? Do you need my support? Do you need my help? I can do that. Yes, it requires, I think, 30 seconds on top of all of that, but there are 30 seconds. But I should have it in my mind. Do I want to be supporting Andrea or not? Or, oh, I did my part, that's it. At the end of the year, oh, I have my objectives, 100% or 120%, I'm excellent. I'm exceptional, I should get an incentive. But my team's objectives are not there. But I have done my part, I'm great.
Andrea, do you agree?
I think it's also about the changing of mentalities, as Gabriela said, because we should see our leaders or our CEOs, our top management as our colleagues, as our friends, not to be afraid to discuss with them, to ask them why you are asking me to do this. Because nowadays, we also, in some companies, we also find this feeling of being afraid to ask your boss. If I ask my boss why, if he is looking at me like this and said, you know why? Or if he didn't want to listen to me. So the hierarchy and the levels of the employers are still not like friends. Of course, we have to respect our bosses. We have to know the levels where we are. But also the communication, as Gabriela said, is the key of the performance of the company, in my opinion, at any levels. So yes, we have to go through this mentality and to see our boss like a colleague, like a friend, not to be afraid to ask him or her why I have to do this. We don't have to be afraid to ask him or to propose them some solution, to have discussion about a problem, to bring our view about the situation, and to know and to discuss what is the best solution to move forward. So I think this is the first step, not to be afraid to ask why.
No problem. So it's about alignment. It's about transparency in any such partnership. I would call it partnership of HR with company in general and managers in general. I think this leads from accountability to ownership. That's our aim, to get the ownership from the respective manager or employee. Because, you know, accountability comes from outside. Somebody is holding you accountable for something that you need to do. But ownership comes from inside. It means that you really take ownership, you really want to do it, and you take over and work on that. So that's, I think, our goal, to work towards obtaining the ownership.
I do have another open question. Is it wrong to challenge my boss, and why would I do it?
Depends. What do you mean by challenging?
Not agreeing with his means, his approaches, and knowing better, but staying behind in the shadows because I don't want to have a marker on my head, but knowing that that approach is not good. And how would I approach it in order to be, I don't know, not resourceful, but to get to a point I'm comfortable with? Should I do it? Should I not do it? He's the boss, or she's the boss.
So it depends. Depends is one of the trainer's greatest word ever.
Consultants in general.
Yes. So it depends. It depends on the relationship that I'm having with my line manager. It depends the level of trust, the level of respect, the level of my expertise. Am I known as an expert in my team or not? It depends the level of the trust within the team. When I'm asking a question, even though it's a stupid question, will I have a label on my mark? Oh, she's stupid. We will never work with her again. Or even though I'm asking a stupid questions, my colleagues will offer me or will guide me to the proper or the right answer. So from my perspective, yes, I'm coming back to communication, because communication is the basis for setting a trust level, a respect level amongst us. From what I'm advising my colleagues is like this. You can ask your manager, why should we do it like this? What are the benefits? What's in it for me, but what's in it for the team if we are doing like this? Can we do it in a different way? This is my proposal. This is how I propose we can do it. What do you think about it? Yes, when you come with a friendly approach, like I can say it, you may have chances to win, and you may have chances to express your opinion, but it depends on the relationship you're having with your manager. Because if your manager is like this, oh, I'm the greatest, I'm the boss, you should listen to me, then actually we shouldn't have a team. You should just send an email with the directions, the instructions, and that's it. Why should we have a meeting? Why should we, I don't know, schedule a meeting in our calendars or go to a meeting room just to see each other? No, send me an email with instructions and that's it. So how are you as a manager? Because from my perspective, a manager is different than a leader. Leaders are humans, managers are robots, actually. From my perspective, yes, sorry, I'm not speaking from books. Because being a leader means more. Being a leader means not only setting a direction, but saying, we want to go there, do you want to come with us? And if you want to come with us through this journey, what do you need from me? What resources do you need? Yes, but this is in an utopic world when everybody is dressing in pink and blue and so on. But we are humans, so it's not wrong to ask. It is important how you start asking, and if your team members are with you while you're asking. Because if I'm only going here, oh, I have a question, why do we do like this? Everybody's asking the same thing, and when you look in the back, everybody's like, oh, no, I don't have it. It's clear for me, it's clear for me. Then my manager, oh, why didn't you understood? Look, everybody is there. Why shouldn't you? So relationship and communication and how you set it and how you say it.
I want to go a little bit back, and you ask a very nice question about who should drive change. And some of the questions were that, well, we should share responsibility, the change, I don't know, belonging or change should be everyone's job. Well, I have a different view on that, and my view is that the CEO should drive change. I've seen a lot of situation where change couldn't go in the right direction, or it started in a very beautiful way, but it didn't land it because the board members were not aligned. So from my point of view, we could start with some early adopters in the company and try to create a movement, but at the end, the CEO should drive change. So from my point of view, the CEO should have on their agenda the belonging conversation. And our role as an HR, as an influencer in people, as someone that can see clearly should be to really partnership with that CEO. But I am afraid that it's not, for sure that if you would ask me, I would say the same. Everyone, it's a shared responsibility. But whenever I saw in Romania shared responsibilities, it wasn't very clear actually who is driving it. And if you can have the CEO, then have it. If you cannot, for sure, find someone. But create a stakeholder committee or create someone that has this role in the company to make the change. I haven't seen other types of changing happened if we didn't have the endorsement, a very big endorsement in the company. And the other question was, can you remind me, Andrei, what was the question about the...
Should I challenge my boss if I know it is wrong? And
I would probably answer this question with a coaching approach. If you ask yourself this question, that means that you want to do it, right? And okay, you might not do it because you control yourself, you try to, I don't do it today, but you might do it in the 6th day. Or you might do it when you are very angry, or you might do it. So if someone asks me this, I would just make sure that he has the skills to have the conversation, to make the conversation happen, and I would encourage the challenge. But this is my point of view, that I have this way of, I encourage radical candor, I believe in the Netflix culture, and because this is another thing that I saw in the organization, and having coaching situations with a lot of leaders, they didn't challenge it because of whatever, and at some point it just popped. and it wasn't an honest conversation, it couldn't become a trust. If you cannot have a conversation about your needs, okay, in a very nice way. When I say challenge, I don't mean being aggressive. I mean challenge. I mean help that boss not always have his own ideas. Contribute to his ideas. Help him become a better job. If he puts a mark on your head, that is his problem. It's not yours. It's not your mark. And if you believe in those things and you can think that you can contribute more, I would say go for it. Even if the culture doesn't allow you, then, I don't know, challenge and move forward if this is the case.
I do have one other question. Should I do it by proxy? Is it better to let HR send the message forward?
No, I think we should assume our role in the company and we should discuss, but as a resume of what Julia and Gabriela said, I think in 2 words I will resume this in a diplomatic communication way. So if you are able to discuss with your boss in a diplomacy way, I think both of you and your boss will learn from this discussion. He will learn that he has to listen to you and to all his employers, and you will know from now on how to make a situation to discuss and to be open, to be transparent, and to tell what you have in your mind or in your soul, depends, in a very diplomatic way.
In such situation, HR should take the role of a coach and give you some advice and some guidance on how to do it. And to your question, there's a concept that I found out about only recently. It's called scratchy relationship. And the scratchy relationship means that you always challenge your partner, but it goes, of course, both ways. And in a group, it goes between all the members of the group. Can we do it better? Is there a way to do it in a more efficient way or in a different way, or is it enough? Should we do more? Should we add value in a way and derive some other actions from this? So this is called scratchy relationship. I particularly don't like very much the name myself, but it really tells something about challenging the status quo, challenging the others for growth. Everybody benefits from this, and of course we assume a decent level of emotional intelligence. To your point, Julia, so we really assume this, otherwise it doesn't work. And then you need like to go to the coach, to the HR, and look, how should I do it? Should I do it? When should I do it? And so on. But an open relationship and a total transparency leads to the best kind of relations, indeed.
I think I have also a personal story. 3 years ago, I could have bought a franchise that was kind of getting out of the market, and one of my employees challenged me. Half a year later, it would have meant closing of the franchise because it was training and team building a franchise, and the loss of around 350,000 euros. It wasn't that much, but you know, because I was challenged, I could thank him because he did that, and I really appreciate that. So it's not just about it's challenging businesses, it's challenging ideas, but we challenge in a very safe and nice way. But we should do more.
But you're a trainer, right? And a coach.
Yes, and what?
And maybe because of this, you have the proper mindset to understand the challenging. That is a good thing. But actually, when looking at today's reality, everybody's maybe thinking it's HR responsibility. I'm going to my HR colleague, I'm telling her him my problem and he should go and fix it. Actually, now we have a tool, a very nice tool, employee engagement survey. We are saying, oh, HR needs to take care of this after having the results of the company. Oh, HR should do something just to make the employees more happier, because we are assuming that they are happy already, so they need to be happier than now. And it's HR job, because actually I don't think we are now yet at the level when assuming our real feedback towards our colleague. So I would like to challenge all of you.
But don't you think that this is how it starts? We should start in a way, because if we are keep pampering us, and you're right, we are not probably yet prepared. We still have trainings to do, workshop situations. We have to swallow our egos, and even if I'm a coach and a trainer, it's not that easy, even for my ego, no? And because I'm very will-driven, and but I think we should start, and I think we should trust our employees more, that they are capable of having more sincere relationships, yes. And yeah, our role as HR is going to be messy, and but I don't know, it's just a view. Don't take it. Don't do it at home if it's not safe.
HR could be the owner for this employee engagement survey, meaning that it could be the department, and I'm not talking about the personal department, administering, analyzing always is with a third party, so it's not actually administering it per se, but the results, and we should be the trigger to form a group, mainly of business managers, to drive the changes that are derived from the suggestions from the employee, that are derived from this employee engagement survey. So HR alone cannot do anything. And the driver, as you said, with the culture, the management team, the CEO and the management team are the drivers for the culture of the company and for the culture of change in a company. But about the climate in the teams, it's the manager, with little helpers from HR, of course.
So we do have 4 more minutes, and I would like to address one question for each of you to respond in one sentence. How do you define the meaning of your work, yourself, for you, towards the outside persons? For me, it's really important to work with the people that are sharing my values, and they really work together towards a purpose.
I think for me it's to do something great with my colleagues, something which has a purpose in the future, a scope, which is a part of the strategy. And the meaning is to know that, coming from the beginning of our discussion, I belong to that part, and I do something very important at my work. Like in personal life, what it is, I just mean to do this. I just want to do this because it makes me happy. It brings me, I don't know, a lot of knowledges, a lot of friends, something for me and something for my personal life and also for my professional life. So I think this is not in one sentence, in more sentences, the definition of meaning.
I will just use one word, and that is impact. I left multinational companies to try to build a company that creates more impact, and for me it's very clear. The line is not that long, so.
For me, my job helps me connect with all my colleagues, and I think my greatest win when talking with them is seeing in their eyes the comfort of being listened, truly listened, for 1 minute. And the feeling that all the time that I had was for that person that I was speaking to. And that is very important to me.
I think that as HR, we need to be a challenger, challenging the status quo, a facilitator, facilitating and also driving change, a change agent, I would say, and an early adopter of all efficient ways of working that are made available for us. Digitalization is I think, a key for making our work more efficient.
In order to belong at work, we must have transparency. We must have connection, and we must know why we are doing what we are doing. It's not enough to try and understand if we want to do our tasks or not, but we must to connect with our teams, to seek advice when it's needed, to intervene when we have something to say, and it's all something that we discussed today. I'm going to end it here and leave a couple of more minutes outside in the coffee break until the next panel to have some discussions. Thank you all, and see each other at 11:30.
Thank you.
What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers never became doers? Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition?
Hello everybody and welcome to the second panel where we're going to talk about new emerging work models. With me we have Georgiana Andrei, Noni Jane, Oana Pitikash and Claire Charlembourg. I promise I'll try to have the accent, so Claire. And we're going to try to see what's the meaning of talent approach within the manner that we need to have an effective team, but also to have that sense of belonging. And I would like to state something. Demographic shifts the demand for new skills and complicated skills also is transforming and heading up fast towards our workplace, no matter what they are. That's a challenge for every company, it's a challenge for every team, and the synergies within that transformation, it's also critical when attracting talent. The biggest, I don't know, maybe focus should also be about trying to attract and make people from different generation work together, sharing the same values and sharing the same meaning, the same scope. And let's try to see, Noni, how can we harness the potential of multi-generational workforce, multi-generational work teams? How can we tap into that and make them work best, make them share, make them develop something together?
Thank you, Andre. It's a great question, and we see that, we have many generations today in this room, also working in our organizations, and talking about, Gen X, Millennials, Gen Z. These are all diverse generations that have now comprising the, culture of the organization. How do we harness their potential, or how do we really make sure that, we are all aligned to a common purpose to the organization? And not to miss that, since the pandemic and even today, we are all working virtually. So it becomes all the more a bigger challenge for leaders, for organizations, to bring in a more inclusive workforce, bring in a more inclusive culture. How should organizations really give some support enablers for employees to come together? Start with the basics, open some communication platforms, let them communicate openly. These generations have different mindsets, so to speak of. They want to, let's say the Gen X and Millennials probably want to unlearn and relearn certain aspects to be relevant in today's work environment. The Gen Z is largely about upskilling their skills, very fast, very soon. They don't stay with the same skill for a longer period of time. So taking cues from all of this, we need to understand that we need to, make an inclusive work environment for our workforce. Keep the diversity alive. Don't kill the diversity, because, when we are recruiting, and again, linking this to talent acquisition, we hire from diverse sources. We have our own targets. We have to hire from various sources. But we don't bring them into the organization to align them together. We need to let that diversity breed. And that's where everyone will feel respected, valued, heard, and have a platform that they can contribute ideas equally. And that is what makes organizations successful. So that is how I would relate to, harnessing this potential of multi-generational workforce and bringing them together, keep the diversity alive, give them the platform to be diverse and remain diverse.
What do you think are the greatest benefits of a true diversity and inclusive workplace and work teams?
So diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging are, I think nowadays, incontestably one of the most significant elements of the social component of the ESG. And because of that, it's literally on everybody's lips in every boardroom today. For companies that fall under the scope of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which entered into force January this year, for such companies, it's not so much a discussion about benefits, because these companies need to report with regard to their social impact. But for companies that do not fall within the scope of this directive, I think we can talk about the benefits here. It's actually, we are talking about the companies that do not have to report on their social impact, but still decide to take a closer look at diversity, equity, and inclusion to see what benefits they could get. And I think we can benefit from such long-standing statistics, which clearly indicate a couple of elementary things. First of all, companies that are in the top quartile, when it comes to gender and ethnic diversity, they literally outperform in terms of performance their peers. So diversity, equity, and inclusion are actually directly linked to increased performance. What I actually think is more important than that is innovation. There are long-standing statistics that indicate that diversity and inclusion are linked to an increased innovation. And this is because you know how the saying goes, diversity is a fact, inclusion is a choice. And then you have diversity, it's just simply the world we live in today. You activate it with inclusion, and then you get disruptive thoughts that lead to innovation. So I think this would be the main benefits that companies can actually, and also talent retention and acquisition. Even in the networking break earlier, everyone, literally everyone, was talking about the fact that regardless of the industry, companies do not find talent. And if they find talent, they cannot retain talent. So I think this is one of the main issues we are facing today. We cannot find enough people. We cannot find talent. We cannot, diversity, inclusion, and equity principles in general, they have been linked with increased talent retention.
Is there a difference that you can feel between inclusion and acceptance?
Yes. As said, diversity is a fact, inclusion is a choice. Inclusion is something you do deliberately, consciously. It's the idea of making everyone, regardless of their diverse background, feel like they have a place in your company, feel like they belong to the team, make them feel that their thoughts are listened to and they are not being judged. Acceptance is something different. I think it has more of a negative connotation than inclusion. I think you need to work for inclusion. Acceptance is just a state of facts. We need to accept some things, but inclusion is something different.
Does that mean that you have to understand the strong points and the value of each team member can bring to your team, and potentiate that I don't know, values or core goals?
Look, I've heard a very interesting idea a couple of months ago. It was referring to KPIs, but someone basically twisted the meaning and said KPIs and this diverse background we live in is basically supposed to be understood as keep people interested and keep people included. I think it's a very relevant idea here that KPI are supposed to stand also for keeping people included. This is important. Why? Because you cannot have innovation and creativity if everyone thinks in the same way. That's just the plain definition of creativity. You need divergent thoughts that, at the end of the day, can lead to higher innovation. So you need to make everyone express their point of view, look for, opt for, engage in obtaining from your team members diverse thinking methods. I think this is the only thing that can increase innovation in a company these days.
What are the main steps towards building this diverse and inclusive culture within a company, regardless that it's a small company, and probably we'll get to Claire with a bigger company that has its, I don't know, laws, has its own rules, has a grippier motor that moves a bit, maybe sometimes slower because of chain of command. But within a small and medium company, what are the first steps you want to do in creating that?
So the first steps with smaller companies, let's call them smaller companies, is data collection and a risk assessment. Because basically, if you want to increase or improve your social impact, you need to know what you're doing and how you're doing it. So first things first, look at what your business looks like and how much of an impact do you generate from a social perspective. Do not simply make a head count. That's never efficient. A head count is not a good indicator of diversity and inclusion. So maybe go a bit beyond that. It's not necessarily a cost problem, so you can have a lot of improvement with these techniques without actually generating additional costs. So forget the headcount, opt for a more in-depth analysis of your workforce, and most important of all, set the right tone at the top, because smaller companies actually have and struggle with this idea. They do not end up having a diverse and included workforce because they have the wrong tone at the top. And I think this is actually the most important thing with smaller companies. Set the right tone at the top. Other tactics could include opt for senior management buy-in. So don't make diversity and inclusion a problem of the HR department and that's it. Involve as many people as you can. Don't opt for just simply drafting the general diversity and inclusion guidelines many companies have. That's never efficient. Tailor make it, so use it for your specific needs in your company, and never ever put it in a drawer and forget about it, because that's also not efficient. So reinforce it with trainings. It's something that can be done also with smaller companies.
Claire, let's talk about your perspective on this. How can you build, and what are the first steps in creating a diverse and inclusive, mindset within a team?
Yeah, thank you, Andrei, and good morning, everyone. So indeed, I have the perspective of a big company, being in a BRD, so 6,000 employees, and Societe Generale Group in Romania, it's 10,000 employees. And so it's true, as Oana said, we are a listed company, so we need to report on all these topics in our social report. So for us, it became a mandatory topic. Yes, it's a regulatory topic, which helps a lot. Believe me, we have all what big companies do, KPIs, resources, reports, and so on. So we follow up this very much. So we do it because it's regulatory, but also, really, and it's my personal opinion, because we are really convinced of the benefits. And we are really deeply convinced that diverse teams and mixed teams are more creative, more innovative, than traditional teams, for sure. So we really do it also by conviction because we see the benefits. So here, very typically, and with a lot of humility, I can share what we do at BRD for the diversity and inclusion. So like many of you, we have a yearly employee barometer. So we check, the opinion of our staff, and we hear the voice of our staff on this. And we have a full chapter on inclusion. So we have a very good rate in Romania on inclusion. So our people think that we have 8.5 on 10, as an inclusive environment. So it's good. I'm not sure that everybody understands what is inclusion indeed. We had this debate, inclusion, acceptance, and so on. But the question is quite clear. Do you feel, that you are really part of the company, that you belong, to the company, despite your differences? So this is really about inclusion. We have done a lot of awareness, so we have the power to make a lot of mandatory trainings for staff. They love it. So we have, some mandatory and non-mandatory trainings on inclusion, discrimination, good behaviors and so on. So we are fully equipped, for this, and this is very important. And this is a quick win you can have if you don't have it yet. There are many modules existing. You don't need to create everything from scratch. The offer is quite plethoric on the market. So we did a lot of awareness through trainings, and we are also developing a journey for our leaders. So we are also, trying to pull our managers from managers to leaders, and we have a full chapter on diversity in this leadership journey, which is very important, that the managers understand also the benefits of diversity. We all often speak about gender diversity, yes, men, women. This is a starting point, which is also the easiest to tackle sometimes. And so we are taking measures for 2 years now on the gender pay gap. We are good in Romania, so you are a very good student in class. You are the best country in Europe in terms of gender equality. So the job is easier for me as HRD. But still we have a gender pay gap, which we want to correct, and we target full gender pay equality by 2025, which is reachable with some resources. And so the first measure we took, because the gender pay gap is often created by the maternity, because we women, we have the magic to disappear, for some time to better come back to business. And so when the young ladies come back to business, we analyze their remuneration with the benchmarks, internal, external, with their salary history. And when we need, we increase on the first day they come back. Yeah, so we had the habit to wait a bit and so on. So we don't wait anymore. We increase the salary and we put them at the benchmark at the D-Day when they come back. So this is one of the strongest measures. And then we have, of course, some KPIs of gender equality in the COMEX, board, and so on. So I don't know if it's ambitious enough, but Societe Generale Group has the ambition to have 30% of women, in the top management positions. In Romania, we exceed this percentage because also Romania is one of the best countries in terms of equality, in terms of top management. So this is what we do. But for this, we insist, on creating career paths based on competencies. So we don't appoint top managers because they are women, but we have a set of competencies, and we have a competencies-based model to appoint people in these positions, with always, systematically, a fair process organized. So, all candidates apply. And then for equal competencies, we might appoint, a woman if we need, to equal. So this is very important. We have a collegial collegial decision-making process based on competencies and through a fair process to appoint top management. So these are the concrete measures we take. I can speak hours and hours about this, but it's really also awareness and mindset. As my colleague said, we need to understand the benefits of all this. And it's not only gender equality, yes, it's also differences of opinions, nationalities, and so on. So definitely.
Do you really think that measurable KPIs are going to help with the inclusiveness of a company and not rather with the acceptance part, with the pure mathematical part? And who should drive that, that assessment?
I think we need both, KPIs greatly help. Unfortunately, we need to get to KPIs. At least in banking system, I don't know in other environments, but at least in banking, KPIs are powerful.
Yeah, I would like to add that, similar to what points Claire had brought up, even Wipro being a very inclusive, diverse organization, we are representing 133 nationalities, working out of 66 countries, 250,000 employees strong organization. So KPIs are important because if you have inclusive HR policies and practices, you need to monitor the impact. You need to understand whether are you in the right direction? Are you really gaining out of certain policies and practices that you've put in place? Or change certain things. It cannot be a cookie cutter approach. What works in one country or one geography may not work in the other. We all just heard, and we know we are living here, that Romania is highly diverse with the gender equality. So we don't need to really focus on a KPI to hire more women here than men. We look at competency, skills, and ability of people who can be hired to do the job. But again, KPIs, for example, a small thing which we measure on our inclusiveness and diversity report is attrition. Is there a higher attrition on women gender? Why? Are they not able to manage their work? Are they being, put on projects where they are not suitable or fit because they have to, juggle work and professional lives at the same time? So small little things, which can really make an impact, has to be driven by some sort of KPIs, although not forced, but awareness has to be created so that everyone understands and works in a common purpose and a common goal.
What you're describing, sorry, just a second. It works with a huge amount of data that you have it really well measured within a system that can handle that. How do you do that within medium companies?
I wanted to add to what just Noni pointed out. You need KPIs because, like you said, in Romania probably most likely we do not have a problem with women not being employed enough. So with the headcount, if you were to stick to the headcount, you would probably get 50-50 or something like that. So it doesn't seem a problem on a very, very superficial look. But you need KPIs in order to go in depth with this and see, are women promoted at the same rate as men? This is also a huge issue, and this is a KPI. You probably have 10 women and 10 men doing the same job, but if you look closely, you might find out that women take 5 years or 6 years to get promoted. It's actually a funny story. There's a famous organizational consultant who recently wrote an article. It's called She's Not Ready. It's literally what he hears every time he's in a boardroom with people trying to promote someone for a position, and each time the name of a woman comes up, it's usually the men in the room that say, she's not ready. Let her wait out a bit longer. So you can have this as a KPI. You can also see, do teams managed by women benefit from the same budgets? Also, there's a finesse here you need to take into consideration. Are women with the same salaries managing the same amount of people with the same amount of projects, or the difficulty of the projects, and so on and so forth? So KPIs are required in order to make sure you're not stopping at a very, very superficial level with this.
The subject is quite complex, and probably after the last 3 years, starting with the pandemic and then 2 years later with the war in Ukraine, I think the development of or the psychological state of mind in regards to I don't know, workplace, the security, the way you are developing has changed a lot. What are your inputs on this, Georgiana?
For sure, all of us have been affected by the past few years, and the period of uncertainty it's not by far over. But listening to what was previously said, and everybody is concerned about employee, about the attrition, how do we keep employees? I think there is a connection if we look in between employee engagement and employee well-being. And there is a mutual causality in between the two, which is a good and a bad element. The good element is the fact that once we work on employee well-being, we will be also able to impact their engagement. And looking at what happened over the past few years, it's obvious that companies have been more and more concerned in regards to their employee well-being. And when defining well-being, companies usually look at both physical health and mental health. And if there was, the beginning of the pandemic was very much about the physical health, keeping the employees healthy, not having them fear about what will happen with them or with their families. Now the trend went a little bit more towards mental health, because we've all been affected by this. There was a headline in a Harvard Business Review article saying that the current situation is a mental health pandemic in reality, and this is the most affected factor in our lives. And talking about companies, what we have seen and the shift that we have seen, if we look at the well-being of the employees over the past few years, is that before the pandemic, these discussions were present in companies, but usually it was a discussion with the HR teams trying to convince the P&L owners that it's good to invest in that direction, while today we see more and more CEOs that are at the table having this discussion. And just like we were talking about inclusion, I think in well-being and also in mental health, it's important to have leaders and management talk openly about this. And here, without asking Noni's acceptance before, I would like to share something that Wipro did. They have a very nice program in which they bring leaders from all over the world in the company and speakers just to speak about mental health and experiences of what they've been gone through the past years. At one point they invited me and I was like, okay, I will talk about what we will do, what we are doing in companies. And they were like, no, we want to hear what you've been through. How did you go through certain things and how did you cope with that? So if there would be one thing to mention in regards to employee well-being, I think the first step is to normalize it and to make it just as acceptable as we say that, I don't know, my tooth hurts or that I have a headache and I can't concentrate, to be just as normal to say, today I don't have a good day, and it's normal that I don't have a good day, and maybe I need some help in order to pass this.
Without being stigmatized or without being judged by the peers, the close peers within the team or outside peers, which is more important?
I don't think it's, I can't say which is more important, one
From your experience until, I don't know, the last 2 years.
Now that you mentioned, I remember a study that I saw that was saying that 78 or close to 80% of the employees believe that the company is responsible for their well-being. On the other side, when asked if they would speak to their direct manager about a mental health problem that they are facing, this percentage was below 30%. So probably acceptance comes first from the immediate circle, and then it needs to be extended at the more general level. And here I would add, D&D Research did a study on the well-being of Romanians, because most of the studies that we were looking at were international. And what we observed, because we did the study on the general population and on Regina Maria subscribers. Regina Maria subscribers, you should take them as the corporate world. It's not about the fact that they are our subscribers. And we observed a very, very big difference in between general population and corporate subscribers, with over 50% of the corporate subscribers saying that at least once they've been to a therapist, while for the general population this percentage was 11%. So I believe that if we look in the corporate world, this discussion started to be normalized, and the past few years really helped in this direction.
Who should drive this approach? The regular foe, the middle management, or the top team?
I think
not enforce it, but drive it.
I think it's a combined work. I mean, you can't do it just, it's an open conversation that you, as a company, you need to offer a platform. Of course, you can't go into the life of the person and tell them you need to go to therapy, but maybe you need to subsidize, because going to therapy, it's not a cheap process. So it's a combined effort over there in between employees and the employer. And it needs to go on all levels up to top management, for sure.
What's the risk for it leading towards, maybe it's a strong word, but let's go with it, stigmatization, like you're gonna go to therapist within the Eastern Balkans maybe, I have this, but I never used it, versus I have this, I'm gonna go and have meaningful talks with a stranger and I can approach it. And Juana, if you wanna take the point on this, what would be the greatest I don't know, way to approach this risk maybe for medium teams and large teams, because they are the same within the age?
So I think that the stigma risk in this regard is quite high, especially for Romania, and we need to understand why. Romania has a very special history when it comes to therapy, psychology, and psychoanalysis. We banned it, we literally banned it during the communism. And therefore, many generations, it's the generation of our parents, our grandparents, they look at therapy as a mentality like something that's wrong. And because of that, because these people are also in the workforce, it is gonna be a stigma. You're not gonna get rid of that. This is why I consider that in order to eliminate stigma with regard to mental health issues, which is a real problem, you really need to start with the tone at the top. I believe in the power at the tone at the top, because mentality is not going to shift otherwise. So you ask for the drive. I think the drive is top leadership in this regard. And top leadership needs to understand that in order to eliminate stigma, you need to understand why we are talking so badly sometimes about people going to therapy. Romania, from a social perspective, from a sociological perspective, is actually quite a competitive country. So there's also another thing here to consider. We look at people that go to therapy as weak people, mainly. So with medium companies, smaller companies, I see you opt for these companies, not a larger one, which probably Claire can tackle better. It's just simply a way of changing mentality, training the leadership, and maybe present the statistics on it. I think leaders, top leaders in small companies, in middle companies, have the intellectual capacity to look at statistics. Very simple, put a statistic in front of them and let them know, why is mental health a problem these days? Why wasn't it a problem with previous generations? Because there are statistics, quite simple statistics that can explain that. So you train the leadership, and then you have a good starting point in this discussion.
Noni, how do you see this across, I don't know, the generational differences? Because you have one of the most diverse teams I know, leading across over 130 countries and ages from quite young to really experienced persons. How do you manage this? How do you not enforce it? How do you encourage this approach of psychological or emotional help within the company?
So yeah, multi-generations, the workforce that we have today in our organization, and also with the virtual aspect of being so distributed and so scattered. We've all, worked globally and connecting virtually earlier also, but now within the same team, within the same city and country also, the teams are so scattered. And physical distancing that we've all learned to live with for the past 2.5 years has easily led to a lot of psychological distancing, right? So there are multiple support enablers that the organization has brought into place, not just from the top that the CEO holds a town hall or, a country manager is holding a town hall to engage with the workforce, but even at a junior level, the one-on-one meetings, the, discussions that take place to give that platform for everyone to come up openly and share their experiences is something that really makes an impact and is very, very important. We do have multiple mass mailers, and we laugh sometimes within our team that Wipro Corporate is sending 10 mass mailers per day, but who has the time to read them, really? So you don't really get to read every content in the mass mailer. And last month I stumbled upon a diversity inclusion report. It was 77-page long, but I saved it. I said, let me understand, because if I as a leader would not understand what DEI initiatives is my organization holding and trying to drive, I will not be able to cascade it further to my team. So every manager, every leader should take the ownership and the responsibility to create that platform. And platforms, again, need not be formal, can be informal platforms. We've heard about Yammer groups. That is social media for corporates. So use those kind of platforms to engage with your employees, engage with the talent within the organization, let them know that they are not judged, they are not discriminated, they are respected, valued, and heard. And this is the culture that we are driving in our organization, that gives them the feeling or the sense of belonging, that you are okay to speak up, you are okay to open up.
Do you involve in these decisions the middle management, the top management, or a top-bottom approach, everybody, and somehow impose it via operational procedures or something?
It's a mix, and it has to be equal engagement, involvement from all levels. It cannot be a top-down approach or just an email sent across that the team leaders have to cascade to their teams, which are managing 15 to 20 FTEs in their team, but it has to be involvement at each level. And organizations like ours, which are so huge, global, with a lot of matrix structures in between, information can be lost easily. So there has to be ownership, involvement at every level.
Okay, we're living the emergence of AI tools, and as I said in the previous panel, we are continuously changing technologies, and probably we're heading towards a paradigm shift in the technology part. We had, like, in the start of the 1900s, the first really technical revolution that actually transformed the packaging industry. We had like millions of people working with this industry, and with the automatic assembly lines, we lost millions of jobs. Did we lose them, Claire? What are your points on this?
Maybe we lost some and we gained some other ones, so no, globally we are not losing. There are no losers in technology and digitalization, that's for sure. Only winners, but we need to do it properly and smartly. So this is a challenge we all have here around the table, I guess. We need to automatize. We use a robot in our back office. We use artificial intelligence to go faster and to get rid, if I can say so, of administrative, bureaucratic, and repetitive tasks. So the ones which have no added value. And we reskill, we upskill. This morning I heard a lot about upskilling, reskilling. It's not just words, it's real actions. Those who want to stay, who want to drive the change, the transformation, and get new skills, we are able to provide opportunities. So this is important, and those who want to live, of course we accompany, we support, and so on, and they make their choice. But we are able really to offer things to our people. And you are right, it's change management, and so our people are afraid of seeing digitalization. Okay, you will close a branch, I will lose my job, and so on. And of course, we need to close some branches because our clients are expecting digitalization. Our clients don't want to go, to the branch for every transaction. So we need both. We need both, and we need to offer the proper solutions to the clients with the best of digital and the best of human. But we are deeply convinced that still human will make the difference. We always say, 50 RON is the same color, same size, same value in Raiffeisen, BCR, and BRD. Yes, what makes the difference around these 50 RON? It's people. So we still invest a lot in people, differently, on different skills. Skills that sometimes we cannot buy on the market because the market is saturated. So we need to create them from inside. So we build the data academy, for example, because we have, a urgent need of data management. We build some academies, also with external partners, and we will start also with some universities to really rescale our people who want to grow in the company. So there are no losers, I'm deeply convinced.
Juana.
I think we did lose them to some extent because when I look at Romania, I see a failed program of adjusting older generations to new technology, and I think this is a huge concern we can actually acknowledge at this point. It's not that widespread as in other countries, but you do see that. So technology is changing at a faster pace these days, way faster than people can actually, older generations can adjust to this change. And for these people, there's a real struggle there in order to readjust their lifestyle, in order to start looking for different jobs and so on and so forth. And I think we do not provide enough help for these people. And this could be related to the fact that we do not find enough people anymore. So maybe you have a solution there. If we were to invest more in retraining, re-educating people to adjust to new technologies, that could be part of the solution here.
Noni?
So in my opinion, I think it's a mindset, So when the computer revolution came, we all thought, oh, computers are going to take away our jobs. But no, look here, how many opportunities are created? And we are still evolving, we are still growing, there are new technologies coming, and people are required to, design those technologies, run those technologies, monitor the impact of those technologies, and understand what improvisations can be further brought. So definitely not that, people need to be scared that with AI or augmented reality or anything, the jobs are going to be lost. The pattern of working will change. Yeah, the output will change, the improvisations will come in, there will be more efficiencies that come into the system of how things are done or how work is done, but definitely jobs will be created rather, and again, talking about reskilling, upskilling, and upgrading the requirement of how we manage change and how we manage the nature of work is something that's really important. So organizations have to really try and create that sense of security, that sense of stability for their employees, repurpose the employees, reskill and upskill them and bring them up to speed rather than showing them the door that, okay, we brought an automation and now you're not required. That's not the approach. The approach should be turned into a positive way, given a positive twist, that, okay, this is a new advancement, new technology, you will learn the skills and you will be repurposed into a new project.
I really do think that in the next years, the only constant will be change of the technology, of the way we approach it, of the way we are working together. And that might bring some challenges for the private and public sector, for the teams, and for the acceptance. Georgiana, what do you think helps with, deciding to be a bit more involved, to share within company, to build up packages of help for employees and better engage with talent acquisition in this year forward in regards to the changes, but also with the benefits you can have and put on the table for your employees to motivate them to stay, to further develop, to understand that the only constant for a while will be change.
Indeed, like Noni was saying, I believe that there is a concern within companies on how to make employees feel a bit of certainty in a very uncertain environment. Talking about benefits, and indeed the discussion about benefits that can surround the salary package, it's a very present conversation for few reasons. One of the reasons is that these benefits have been evolving quite a lot over the past few years. On the other side, we see more and more companies in an environment with high inflation, where probably you can't match the inflation with the salary increase, of adding different benefits that are really valued by the employees, and somehow covering some expenses that for sure will be needed by the employees. And if I'm going to look, I will look mainly at what means health-related benefits, because this is what I know best, and my background. And I think also the health-related benefits, like if 5 years ago the benefits would be enclosed in one small sheet, now it's a very, very wide and diverse area of services that can be provided. And when I look at health benefits, the first thing that company did during the pandemic is that they wanted to get better coverage for their employees. This was the first step. Then they looked at what happens with their families. Okay, I want also to keep the families safe, so I want to offer maybe coverage for the families, and if not the whole family, maybe at least for the children. Those are the most, they impact emotionally the most the employees. Then we went in the part of mental health that has really been growing a lot, but also in terms of physical health, we've seen a significant growth in what means cancer screenings. And there is a reason why we've seen this part growing over the past years. Romania, unfortunately, is top of the list in Europe in deaths that could have been prevented. Because in Romania, until last year, there was no national cancer screening program. And there was a statistic issued by the health ministry at the end of 2021 that was saying that in 2021 there were 40,000 diagnoses of cancer missing, which means 40,000 people that unfortunately were sick, but they didn't know. And in this direction, and it's also connected to certainty, company said, okay, let's start investigating as soon as possible, so I know I am okay. So this is a direction. Another direction that appeared now, and it's there are lots of discussions around this, because there is a legislation from the European Commission regarding to glasses. And should the glasses be provided by the employer or not? So this is a new conversation that is now in the environment. So in order to sum up, I think if you look at health benefits, which based on all the statistics, they are the most wanted benefit after all the cash benefits, I think there is a very wide area of benefits that can be provided, and that also sustain the well-being of the employees, because they would be the basis for the well-being of the employees.
Yes, you said change. I think you're right. I think it's literally the only constant that we're going to see. And this is also because of technology. I think everyone in the room most likely tried ChatGPT by far. It actually does the reports, or some of it, better than myself in terms of lawyering. So you have that. I also feel my job threatened a bit with ChatGPT. So if we acknowledge change, then we need to think for our employees and for the employees of our clients how to tackle this. And the only thing to do is acceptance. People need to accept that change is a constant, and they need to learn how to adjust. But this is something related to the employer, because you did mention before that it was 70 or 80% of employees think that the employing company is responsible. Yes, but I think it's actually more or less a private goal of each and every one of us. So we need to train ourselves to accept change. This is where therapy maybe comes in hand. And if we want to help our employees, maybe we need to encourage them in this direction. So train them, educate them, give them whatever we can to make them adjust better and easier, because it's a personal approach we need to do as human beings there. I don't see a way around it, unfortunately.
I really do believe that generative AI is just the tip of the iceberg, and it's not something that can replace us, but maybe something to complement or ease our work. But what do you think, Claire? Is this a new work model? It's a new work pattern in 2023 and beyond?
Yes,
or it's not going to be accepted by teams and everybody will try to push it away?
No, I think we are in that direction, very clearly. And teams, are accepting already. The acceptance curve, yes, of change. We go deep, down, and then, we accept finally, and then we are enthusiastic, and we cannot live without the new things anymore, yes? It's like the new shoes. When you change your shoes, you have a new shoes, it hurts, you cannot work well, and so on. You are, it's a drama. And then you cannot change anymore because they are so comfortable. I've been with this one for 5 years, I can testimony. So definitely, we are in that direction. We need to accompany the managers, to accompany the teams. And here, HR has a key role to play, a strategic role to play, that's for sure. But people will see the benefits, because the clients see the benefits. And if we are a client-driven company, a service company, when we see that clients are happy with the service and the proposal, then we accept the change, easier. And we see that the behaviors of our customers are changing, evolving fast. So if we don't follow, we all understand. But it's a lot of, explanation, repeating what we want to do, how we want to do, put people at ease, make them part of the change, involve them in the change. All this, is time-taking, but we don't have time. So definitely, change management is at high speed. It's acceleration of the change, which is difficult for the people. It's not the change itself. It's a tempo, which is very fast, because market is moving very fast. So I'm confident, I'm quite optimistic that we will manage all this. The managers are in the driving seat, in my eyes. You always ask, who is driving? For me, managers are in the driver's seat. We HR are in the passenger seat, but piloting, guiding them, on the road. And this is, the partnership we need to forge with our managers. And for me, the direct manager is really in the driving seat. Not top-down, okay, we have a top-down approach, but the proximity manager is close to the teams, is on the field. We spoke a lot about, psychological support, well-being, and so on. We need really to make our managers aware of the importance of this, to train our managers. I can give an example. In BRD, the employee barometer showed a high level of stress. So our people, are under stress. I think that we are not the only company, having a level of stress in the people. So we need to train the managers first for them to be aware that there is, stress in the teams, to be able to detect symptoms of stress. What is a stressed person? How can I detect? And then their role stops here. They are not psychologists, So then they need to inform HR, and we have the means to support and provide support to the people. And it's true that psychological support is still something people are reluctant to use. We see it in the statistics. We offer the support, but it's not used, fully. But I'm sure that this will change because the need is here.
How do we address, and this is an open question, how do we address the change fatigue? Because change is the only constant, but change usually comes with a lot of stress, comes with a lot of effort, comes with uncertainty. How do we address this across the teams, from top to bottom and from bottom to top?
Yes, you're right. The workforce is tired. Yes, we all see it, and I think that we need to help the managers to manage the energy of their teams. It's very important. And we cannot, ask everything at once. So I think that, to have a sense of priority and to help the manager to put the right priorities and to choose the right fights to, let's say, spare the energy of their teams, to deliver, is very important.
I think a solution could be creativity or trying to increase creativity. Why I say this, I'm going to share a bit of an insight with regard to the legal profession. A couple of years ago still, one of the main things that would have made you a brilliant junior lawyer was research capabilities. So that junior lawyer that was capable of researching everything related to a specific topic in a very, very short amount of time was the junior to hire. And we, as a law firm, as a large law firm, we also did that. So we targeted those juniors that were very resilient and very bright when it came to finding solid information in a quick amount of time. But now you have the same ChatGPT and other tools that basically make this kind of characteristic not so needed anymore. And we are talking about it's attenuated, but I actually was thinking for the future because it's ChatGPT today, but tomorrow there's something going to be very specific for the legal research activity. And as you can see, this has happened in a quite short amount of time. So we are talking about the juniors of yesterday, and now they feel a bit like what they were trained to do or learn how to do is a bit challenged at this point. And as you said, they get confused and they get tired and they get scared because you're all the time thinking, what am I supposed to do next? What is going to be my new skill? What are employers actually going to look for in the... And I think the answer is creativity. You need to make these people creative because they need to know how to start looking for different solutions in this regard. Maybe it's not research, but think of something else. Find a way to be valuable, find a way to be inspired on a different topic, because then you might actually have yourself a seat at the table. So I think it's creativity or something related to creativity that might solve this problem a bit.
Noni, how do we address change fatigue?
So I don't know if everyone understands the meaning of change fatigue. It could be, burnout, exhaustion, frustration, that feeling of being overwhelmed that my organization or just a matter of my team itself is having too many changes. And how do I live through these changes? How do I adapt through these changes? Maybe the changes are too frequent, maybe they are too disruptive. This is a question that, the leaders, the HR and managers and even team leaders need to ask themselves. They need to feel the pulse of their employee. They need to feel what they're going through. Also, what can really be done as an organization is to help with the change fatigue is give them adequate support. Give them, the adequate platform to live through those changes and understand and how it will impact them, answer their questions, be available for them, and not just communication one way that, okay, this is a change, this is what will happen starting so-and-so date. No. You need to explain the rationale behind the change. You need to involve people at a certain level, of course. You cannot, have 200,000 people involved in decision making, but at a certain level involve in the idea of bringing that change and announcing that change well in advance, ahead of time, so that everyone gets, adapted and gets enough time to really live through that change. So again, giving them support and monitoring and living them through the change is what really helps. And organizations should work on that.
I will connect to something that Claire said, and which I believe it's really important. Like we have the first aid trainings, physical first aid trainings, there are also psychological first aid trainings. And in Eastern Europe, these trainings, they are compulsory, just like we have them, the physical ones, we have them compulsory in Romania. And these trainings help us better understand ourselves and understand, okay, am I in burnout? Am I just having a bad day? How many bad days does it mean that maybe I'm in burnout? So this is in order to have awareness for ourselves, but just as Claire was saying, we need to teach our leaders how to understand what is happening with their colleagues. A colleague that maybe is not taking care of himself as much as he was doing it before, does it mean that he might have maybe a different problem? A colleague that was performing, but now he's not making so much eye contact, he's not so much sociable, if you're lucky enough to see him in the office. Is there a different problem there? So I think we need to train ourselves to be more aware to what is happening to ourselves and also what is happening to our colleagues. For sure, we won't all be transformed into psychologists, but on the other side, yes, there are programs that can help people, because if we are talking about a person which is in burnout, I'm not talking, there is the same study that I was telling you a little bit earlier that was showing that over 50% of the Romanians consider that they are having burnout symptoms, that they have been having burnout symptoms over the past year. This doesn't mean that 50% of us are in burnout, but if a person gets to be in burnout, it needs to be a full program that will help that person get out of there. Again, I'm going to the Western Europe, where when you have a person diagnosed with burnout, there is a 2 or 3 months program where he would be working together a therapist, he would be working with a nutritionist. So it's a full program to be done in order to get out of that state. So I think it's the first step is awareness, and then knowing where to direct ourselves or our colleagues in order to better develop resilience, because I think that's what's about. Change is here, and we need to work at our resilience capabilities.
Change is here, and we have to be resilient within the only constant. Change is and will be here. I was striving to get some time for a few questions, if there are in the public. Andrea, just a second.
Hi, my name is Raluca Popa, and you spoke before about gender gap, and maybe you know that at the European level, the gender gap is measured, it's an index, and they have different areas of the gender gap, like power, money, knowledge, time, and also health. And I was wondering if at your company level there is really a metrics or something that counts or evaluates from time to time the gender gap that you have, in order to know from where you start and where you are going. And if it is, which type of gender gap you find it more present, or let's put it with other words, you think that you have to work more in the future, like power, and this means decision making where there are involved women, or money, or they have to invest more time to work more, to prove more knowledge. Where do you find, if you find this in your company? Thank you.
I could maybe try to address this, but maybe in the name of the clients we provide legal assistance for, so not the personal company we have. I don't think many companies in Romania do have these elements in place. I think they are not monitoring it correctly, or very, very superficially. Claire, maybe you can share some insight here, because you did say at the beginning you had some tools to very effectively measure this gap, this gender gap.
Yeah, I spoke mostly about the gender pay gap.
The gender pay gap.
So about remuneration, and we have a methodology, indeed, very granular, I want to say. I will not enter into details because I'm not the expert, but my head of comp and ben could reply, better than me. But globally, we take really, equal seniority, equal job, equal competencies. So it's not easy. It's a lot of work behind. You need to have reliable data. And we follow this with the methodology of a Société Générale group. So we have the help of the group, And so on gender pay gap, I'm very comfortable. Then on the other gender gap, you can check. We have a full report on it in the Société Générale group website with all the index and so on. So it's a list of indexes. And we have what we discussed earlier, the she is not ready. So we measure, indeed, the frequency of promotion of women.
So the power side of
yes.
the gap.
Yes, yes.
Because Romania stays very low to this type of gap regarding the power of women, not for the money, for example. They are more or less, they get the same money as men. But in terms of power, they are not involved in decision making as men. So that's why I said to split the discussion, what type of gender gap do we have? Because if we speak in general about gender gap, it may be, it may not. But then if we really look to some metrics, then we know really what is there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I may have another one.
Shoot.
Okay, so you spoke about creativity, that you would like to develop creativity in your employees or for your employees. And creativity is something that we develop in our right side of the brain, right? And usually because we live a lot with our left side of the brain, and where we have negative emotions and their limiting beliefs and pressure and so on. I was thinking, because also Georgiana said about therapy, which is a longer and deeper process, and a person may want or may not want or be open to it or not. I was thinking, do your companies use coaching or coaches in order to help people to develop their creativity? Thank you.
So coaching, definitely, we are moving from the traditional learning and development, classroom training, modified into virtual training. But yes, coaching is a very integral part of our organization. And we are coaching managers to be acting as coaches, not as taskmasters, not as leaders, but to really feel the employees, feel them in their daily tasks, what are their struggles, what are their challenges, and really going ahead and investing in this aspect. So definitely coaching is something that the organization really believes in, and we've had multiple certification programs that have been launched at different levels for our employees. Some are global training programs for certified coaches, and some are, at a local level tied up with external parties. So it is an integral part, and we do pay a lot of, attention to this aspect.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Just a second. For the last of the panel, I would also like to ask the panel to think about if continuous learning can bring the processes in the company and the learners to get skills that cannot be bought or cannot be borrowed. This is something that we should think for the final parts of the panel. Until then, okay, we have a question there, and please.
Hello, Julian Ritze is my name. I would like to ask you, what are some examples of well-being programs that you've been developing in your companies, and how did you address tech fatigue, Zoom fatigue, stress, more exactly with the existing programs?
I can take the one on well-being, maybe. I mean, it's still in progress, I need to say, works in progress, because we want to improve this, constantly. But it's awareness of managers, for sure, on this, and they instinctively understood also the importance of it. And COVID helped a lot, somehow, to progress in this matter. And we organized a lot of webinars during the COVID period to have teams remaining connected. It was very important for us to have, a kind of forum, where teams can remain connected. And we tackled also the topics through the health, pure, more medical, I can say. And we organized webinars with some medical experts, on a good sleep, good diet, the effect of tobacco. I mean, these kind of, things. And it was quite successful. And it contributes also to well-being, for sure. And then we have psychological support if people need. But here we still need to convince our people to use this more and more. Not as a therapy, but really as prevention, of fatigue, burnout, and lack of well-being. But so this is what we do, and then we are working on some additional benefits. We have, of course, like everyone, sports and sports side and so on. But we need to do more, in terms of well-being. And this Zoom fatigue and Skype fatigue and Teams fatigue, I can tell you that our people are very happy to come back to the office. Actually, we organize workshops, And we have, always both because we are in hybrid mode. So we have one full remote and one full presential. And actually, we need to find bigger rooms because people are eager to come back to work. Not everyone, but globally, for these kind of things, people are tired of Zoom.
Georgiana?
Here I will share from our partners. What we usually do is, like, if we see a problem like would be Zoom fatigue and all of this, we say that it's better to have a period of time like 2 months when you create different happenings around that problem. So you create also, what we want to do is to change habits. And we say that changing habits needs to happen also in between people. So people would force one another to do some changes. And it's a combination of creating live events in order to bring people in the office. And many times we have this type of requests from our clients, then offering information on a certain topic, like small ideas that they could take away, create challenges. I don't know, maybe don't look at your phone after 9 o'clock in the evening. Different things that would be engaging people in the office and have them work towards a common goal in that period.
Okay, another question.
Hello everyone, my name is Laura and I have a question for you. I would like to know your perspective. It has been highlighted that generational diversity comes along with different needs, perspectives, and working styles. So I would like to know, how do you ensure equity while leading people by addressing to their different needs? That would be, I'm sorry if it's a tough one, but I'm genuinely interested in hearing perspectives on this.
On this one, what I can, from our experience talking about well-being, in well-being there is no one-size-fits-all. And we strongly believe that we need to understand the perspective of each company, and the perspective would differ in between younger generation and the 40-plus generation that we were talking a little bit earlier. And the truth is that the reality that the young generation has been brought up and what they are facing today is very, very different to what we were facing when we were their age. And sometimes I hear among my colleagues, or maybe I think also myself, but I learned this the hard way myself. Why do they need so much help? But we need to understand that it's a different reality, and I think this mindset of one size doesn't fit all, and you need to listen. I think it's very much about listening and understanding. The other one is key into bridging these gaps. This is my perspective.
You are fully right. So statistically speaking, millennials and Gen Z are the most diverse generation in history. It's a fact. They come with different preferences, they come with different working styles, and this is a challenge for every manager. But I think the idea here is balance. You also need to understand the requirements of the manager and the vision of the company, as well as your personal preferences. And there needs to be a constant open discussion between both parties on how to adjust this to the best extent possible. I think it's not a question of either or. So I would actually add to this. Of course, younger generations want to be heard and they want their lifestyle to be respected. But I think we need to be a little bit cautious with this because it's not an absolute right. So balance, as said, balance is the key here.
And I'll just add in one word, flexibility. Allow flexibility. Do not enforce, because we want that diversity to grow. We don't want to kill diversity. So when we go and talk about talent acquisition and hiring from diverse backgrounds, bringing them and then saying, no, this is one strict approach that everyone has to follow is going to fail. So we need to allow flexibility. We need to understand what is the need of what kind of generation that we are working with and allow those different working models. Now it has been time tested and proven that all working models work in some way or the other. So balance and flexibility will definitely, bring a recipe for success.
Another question, please.
So I'm going to come back to the change conversation. You talked about change fatigue, you talked about change management, helping employees adapt to change. I think one of the risks when talking about change that way is that it can feel reactive, and it can transmit the message to employees that change is something that happens to them and that they don't have the agency to drive it. So I'm curious if your companies are doing anything to empower employees with skills that help them look externally, look long-term ahead, to start anticipating that change, or maybe even driving that change both within the organization as well as in the external environment that they operate in.
I think that we are psychologically wired to dismiss change. We don't like it at the beginning. I think it's a problem we face every day. We don't like change because it's disruptive. So there is a natural tendency to stand against change when you need to adjust to it. This is why I mentioned earlier, I think the best thing to do here is to opt for a more psychological approach with regard to accepting change. What employers can do is quite limited in my belief here. So they can teach psychological skills, so to say. It's rather on the soft skills than other technical skills or whatever that could do the trick here. I don't think you can move around this more than this. When I say soft skills, I mean the idea of not being extremely stiff with a certain mindset. So stiffness is something that employers can teach you to let go. And when it comes to thinking, you can try to, with brainstorming session, you can try to teach flexibility as a way of thinking. This is something that leaders can teach. But I think it's, as said, it's a soft skill set rather than any other kind of skills here.
Maybe I can complete with something we do at, change it's daily life now, yes? Change, run, where is the difference? Honestly, we don't know anymore. But we can have, coaching, we can have training, we can have change management, we can have agile approach, agile coach, and so on. And we have all this and so on. But actually, the mindset is very important, and we are working a lot on the mindset, because the change, starts with ourselves. Yes, we are the change, not they, not the others, but we are the change. And actually, this was not the objective at the beginning, but it turned out, very useful to contribute to change management. We are training our people, half of our people, this year, on what we call a climate fresk. I don't know if you know the climate fresk, but BRD has the ambition to be the top, sustainable finance bank on the market. And we are on a good track to have it. So, of course, we offer, sustainable products to our clients. We finance ecological transition, energetic transition, and so on. So the banks have a big power, to contribute to climate preservation. So this gives an additional purpose to what we are doing, because in the morning we spoke a lot about meaning, purpose, and so on. So banks have a real purpose, a social one. We help people to buy a flat, to buy a house, to buy a car, to find a job. There is social responsibility, but also environmental. So we are really, focused and leader on the ESG, environment and social governance topics. And to start with, in parallel to building expertise, because we don't have yet expertise, on the market. So we are building it, progressively, the product and the skills. We are also working on awareness, and we decided to train all our staff, and we have a top-down approach, because we think it starts from the top, to give the impulsion to the down, on the climate fresk. So it's in a nutshell, it's a workshop where you are explained through a game with cards, word cards, the causes and consequences of the climate change. And then you have a debrief on what we can do. Collectively, and with bankers, it's very interesting because we have a lot of things to do collectively, but most of all, individually. And it helps a lot of people to understand that the change starts, at the individual level. And it's very interesting and very concrete, because, for example, in BRD, we decided to cap temperature in the office. So in France, it's 19 degrees. I can tell you that when we see them on Zoom, they are with the coats, scarf and so on, they are very cold. And here it's 21 degrees, we are lucky. But still, people complain, complained a lot, 21 degrees, oh, it's a scandal. And today, people come, with sweaters, with scarves. They don't complain anymore. They understand that they need to accept the constraint, if they want the change to happen. And this was not the objective of the fresk at the beginning. But actually, all what we do has an impact, making people aware that the change starts at the individual level. So this is just an example to illustrate, and to complement your question. It's everywhere.
Also, to complement on your question, there is a theory that says that if you are able to train your employees to change their locus of control from external to internal, then the performance of the company in changing period is much, much better. So going into this direction is not necessarily a solution, but training for internal locus of control for sure can help within companies. And what I can share from my perspective with my team, how we manage it, it's a constant conversation about change and the fact that change always brings opportunities. Also in a recession, if you look, there are always winners. So it's about how to look for the opportunity in whatever happens to us that anyway we can't influence.
We do have time for one more question, but before of this, my colleague Cosmin is not here, but he has a saying, and Bogdan knows it, my HR director. If you want people to embrace change, to talk to you, to state their mind, you have to, in regards to something, you have to tell them what that something, either a process, a tool, a mindset, a work attribute does for them. How do that thing helps them to be better, to make better work, to ease their work. And that's really important, to make them understand that transformation, that change is with them and not imposed to them. With some, it doesn't work, but with most of them, if they understand what's better for them, and it is better for them to participate, to develop, they will get involved. The last question, please.
Sure, thank you. Alexander from Wipro. It's funny that my question is also connected to change in general. So I noticed earlier there was this saying that not change is the challenge at the moment, because we do have change management, but rather the speed of change is the main challenge. So in this context, because companies need to accept and embrace change and transformation to stay competitive, how do you think companies can approach the discussion about the necessary speed of change? Because change is constant, correct? And because of this, it might be in contradiction with the sense of stability or safety for employees. What do you think companies can do in order to make their employees be comfortable with the speed or the constant change, let's say? Because we do have plans for change management, but the sense of being constantly in change might affect people regarding their sense of safetyness and stability within a company. How do you think companies could approach that discussion?
I think that when a company manages to correctly communicate what its mission and what its values are, you're basically giving a bit of stability to your employees by telling them, this is my mission, this is not changing, because companies most likely do not change mission every time, right? So you give them stability with regard to goals, with regard to targets, with regard to the mission you have, and what basically characterizes you as a company, and let them know that the only thing that is changing is the way to get there. So I think we gain some psychological stability when we know that the goal is the same, it doesn't change. The means to get there, they might change, but the company also has tools and time and education programs that help us basically get there easier. So I think we can approach this subject like this, and maybe grant some additional comfort to employees. But I understand your thought. I think it's a huge problem with every team this day.
So basically reconnecting people to the values and the mission of the company.
Yes, because you, when trying to counterbalance this significant dynamics in change, you look for what is constant or stable. Values are usually something that a company takes very serious, especially if it's a highly regulated company or a company like Claire explained, that puts a lot of a great deal in actually showing what it stands for in terms of ESG and you name it. So you take values and you take your mission as something that is rather constant and not ever changing, and focus on that, providing employees with the idea that we're all walking towards the same goal. So that's stable. That's something that we can rest assured it's something stable. Maybe the technology to get there changes, but we'll learn that as well. So we'll adjust to that. It's easier.
Maybe just to complement, it's also very important that managers ensure psychological safety You know, this is a key point, and this is what we include also in our leadership programs systematically. So we have half a day on psychological safety, because change is, it's what we said, you know, change is not the problem. This is the acceleration of transformations, you know, and it's transformations everywhere. Business models, you know, cultural, high technology, and so on. And so people, you know, are overwhelmed, it's true, but if they are in psychological safety with good support from their managers, you know, and our managers are recognized to be available to listen and to support our people, so we have good basis. But they need to ensure psychological safety through feedback. We spoke this morning, you know, about continuous feedback. This is very important, positive feedback. So this was a success. Okay. Guys, let's gather. Why was it a success? Let's capitalize on this success. We are very good when there is an incident, when there is a catastrophe. We all gather, you know, we make what we call post-mortem, yes, to make sure it never happens again. This, we have a protocol, a procedure we can do. We never do it when it's a success. I mean, this is a real pity, because the success will be, you know, the really virtuous cycle to repeat the success. So we are training our managers now to capitalize on the success and to debrief on the success, to create this psychological safety, you know, and most of all, and very important, and this is where I want to get, the right to mistake. We accelerate the change, so we will make mistakes, you know, for sure, you know, and we have to have this right to mistake. We learn from our failure, we learn from our mistakes, we learn also from our successes. So we need to capitalize on both, and we want to put our people at ease, you know, it's okay, we will make mistakes. We are doing mistakes already today, so it's not the end of the world, you know, let's see, you know, how we can learn from our mistakes.
In a very short sentence, for whomever wants to address it, can we build the skills or skills that cannot be borrowed or rented? Can we do that?
We need to do, but because you will be much, actually I let you reply, because I guess that will be impactful.
So in our organization, you know, because we are so huge and diverse, and there are multiple skills that come into play in terms of giving solutions to our customers, be it in business consulting, IT, automotive, outsourcing. Definitely when we are going out and hiring in the market, you do not get all those skills. And given the demand and supply gap today that organizations are dealing with, you have to be more open, more agile in your recruitment practices. We all talked about quiet quitting and everything, right? So there is a new concept about quiet hiring. And this is something that Wipro has been doing for quite some time. It's just that now we get a new name to this phenomena. Why not the people who have quietly quit? You know, that stays as a headcount in the organization, but they've lost the will, passion, motivation to work or use their skills to really generate output. We are repurposing that talent. We are trying to, you know, invest into that talent, having a training roadmap for those employees, because the headcount exists in our organization. So we are trying to adapt to the market changes. We are trying to also see what can we do differently, be creative in our approach. Humans are available within the company. We just need to, you know, repurpose them and build those skills. So yes, keeping up with the pace in the market, we are trying to build those skills and train the people that are already in the organization.
I think that skills that cannot be borrowed or taught are quite personal skills, so something that is very individual to someone. And in order to get to that, I think the explanation is empowering. This is what we can do. We can empower people to be more creative. We can empower people to show much more of their character and to do what they know best, because that's going to differentiate them from us. And I think this is a skill that cannot be taught. Being your own self, being your true self, your individual, and literally investing time with the help of the employer to get to that point where you actually are, what differentiates you from another person. I look at younger lawyers in our company, for example, and I see that there's a huge potential for being ingenious. But if they stick too much to the rules, and if they stick to old mentality that does not promote this kind of being ingenious, they never get to that point when they can actually make a case about them being ingenious. So empowerment, because they cannot do it by themselves. So you need to help them to empower them, basically.
So they need to engage, and well-being, as I understood from all the panel, well-being impacts directly the engagement. I think it's a nice thought to be left for today. Thank you, Mirela, for organizing this. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you all for participating. And I think we have some strong points to think about in our teams and companies. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrei. Thank you to
What if dreamers
Thank you,
never
Andrei,
became
and to all our
doers?
speakers. And
Where would we be if limits were never tested? Who says we shouldn't challenge what's possible? Or leap without looking? What if humanity's biggest questions were inspired by one thing? The belief that tomorrow can be better than today. What's your ambition? What if dreamers